For me, a nice bottle of wine can be enjoyed on a Sunday afternoon, on a Tuesday night, on a Thursday morning. No, maybe not. So let's just set this up as a show about me drinking too much. This is usually where you'd see a montage of me eating, smelling a glass of wine, doing some yoga, going on a run around Halifax, really appreciating the scenery. But really I'm just gonna tell you, my name's Jess. I love food. I'm the hype girl for good food in Halifax. I am primarily a food photographer. I also do food styling, I do recipe development, I write about food and culture, and now I guess I'm also an on-camera host. I want to introduce you to the best offerings that Halifax has. One of those things is Obladee Wine Bar. Part of what they do is put together amazing wine and amazing cheese. And this is all curated by Heather Rankin, who's a sommelier and also cheese expert. Today we're gonna taste wine and cheese, and she's gonna show us how to pair it all. Where are you gonna take me today?
I thought what we would do is have a few wines that cover some pretty traditional styles, like sparkling and white. We've even got like a little skin contact white in there, an orange wine. And then on the cheese front, do some styles there too that we're making here in the province.
You have a real knack for creating a wine list that is approachable to people, but also pushes people out of their comfort zones.
If you're gonna do something different, make it familiar. And if you're gonna do something familiar, make it different. And I think that's what we're just trying to do. The more you understand something, the more you like it. People are coming here with their friends and their family, and they're not here to analyze everything in their glass and everything on their plate and like take notes. And when they work all day, they go to school, whatever, it's like life's hard. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard when you come to Obladee. So I think like all we're trying to do is get people to come in and have a bit of fun. And then if they have some questions, everybody on staff here knows their stuff really well. And I think that's helpful for you as a customer to like understand what you're drinking and therefore appreciate it a bit more.
Nova Scotia sparkling wine really does tell the story of what's happening here. It has a brightness and a freshness, but it also really talks about the cool climate. It's lively and it's effervescent and it's beautiful, and I think that it speaks to what our culture and what our hospitality is like. People are bubbly. I'm so impressed with all the traditional method sparkling wine that comes out of Nova Scotia, and I feel lucky that we live in a place that makes maybe the style of wine that I'm the most in love with.
Every good sparkling wine has that almost like the tension between what they call richness, like that kind of creaminess in a sparkling wine, with acidity, so that lift and that brightness. Because if a wine is too bright or too acidic, it's just not pleasing to people. Like you can kind of get through it, but you're like, gosh, this is like eating a lemon, drinking a lemon. So you want to balance that acidity with some richness. If you have a really warm year, which is always welcomed here in Nova Scotia, and a long growing season, like a gradual one. So what you don't want is lots and lots of heat and sunshine in one snap, where your grapes ripen really quickly and they develop all their sugars really quickly. You want a long growing season, so the grape matures with time. It's like people, right? You want lots of experience and to round out the person over time, learning their lessons as they go.
Yeah.
So it's the same with wine. So a really nice warm sunny vintage would add some richness to a sparkling wine.
The texture of the bubbles in a wine like this is just so like fine and elegant. And it's like the bubbles are so tiny and creamy. I remember kind of the realization when someone looked at me and said, all of our wine would be bubbly if we didn't just let the gas out.
Yeah. The bubbles are derived naturally. There's like a second fermentation that happens inside of a closed bottle. And one of the byproducts of fermentation, of course, is CO2. So when the CO2 is released from the ferment, the second ferment, it has nowhere else to go but back down into the wine as effervescence. And so that kind of bubble that's more naturally produced by fermentation is smaller, less coarse, less aggressive.
Generally, what kind of cheese style would you suggest with something like this?
So this cheese is called Pizzlewig, and it's made by the very well-known, at least in Nova Scotia, cheesemakers called That Dutchman cheese. This is like a surface ripened cheese, so it ripens from the outside in. So the cheese will always be more intense at the rind. Sparkling wines tend to be a little bit more delicate in nature. So I'd like to go with cheeses that are a little softer in nature. I think people want like kind of a fruit experience when they have sparkling wine. So if the wine is tasting a little bit neutral and you kind of want more fruit, you can put that with a saltier cheese and it'll bring out that fruit for you.
Ooh, I like it. The flavor closest to the rind to me.
Yeah.
Is the best.
A little bit more that earthy umami.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are at the best wine store in Halifax, Bishop Cellar. It has a great selection of local wines. It has a great selection of natural wines. It has a great selection of wines from around the world. And also lots of good beer, if that's more your thing. For me, you know I love the wine. My interest in wine really started by drinking really terrible wine in university and thinking that I was classy and cool and making some meals and trying to pair the wines with it, mostly because I didn't want to study or write my papers. After I graduated university, I decided I really wanted to know more, so I went to British Columbia to work in a winery there because their wine region is a little bit older than Nova Scotia's, and they just have a little bit more history. So I thought I'll go there to learn first. But then eventually made my way here and realized that there was a real emerging wine scene and that there were wineries popping up left and right all over Nova Scotia, and it was a really exciting time because they were starting to make really beautiful wines and really caring about sharing those with folks. Orange wine. Some people think it's made of oranges. Heather is here to dispel the myths, the confusion around what orange wine is.
So this is a brand new release from Petite Rivière Vineyards. Now they are based in the La Have River Valley, so which is a lot of people think about the Annapolis Valley or the Gaspé Valley being our only wine area, but we also have the La Have.
I think some people see it as a new thing, but really it's kind of bringing something that's very old.
Yeah.
Back.
It's kind of like a new old thing. And it's essentially just fermenting white grapes on their skins, right? So that's the way we would do it with red wine. And when you do that, some of the color from those skins leaches out into the wine and creates this kind of an amber or orange hue. I'd say it's more akin to like maybe a sour beer or a cider or like iced tea or something. That's sort of the avenue it's closest to.
What do you put with this? Is it broad?
Quite a bit of options. So this is from our current menu. It's a scallop ceviche made with Digby scallops, and this one is a green curry vinegar. And you can see there are slices of green apple there, some red onion, and some of our herb green oil on top.
Ceviche is absolutely one of my favorite dishes. I had it in my travels in Mexico. It was shrimp mango, jalapeno, some tomato, and cilantro. It is so easy to make this dish, and all it takes is fresh raw seafood, some citrus or some sort of acid, and a few fresh ingredients, and you've got a dish that knocks it out of the park. Today, I'm going to add in some chopped red onion, tomato, jalapeno, and mango. Then I'm going to take my scallops and just give them like a super rough chop. Scallops cook in about 15-20 minutes in some acid. So I'm just using a citrus press, and I'm gonna squeeze a few limes onto here, enough to really coat and almost cover all of the seafood. This is a super easy way to feed your friends, to entertain without spending a whole lot of time in the kitchen. This is one of my absolute favorites. When you brought these two out, I thought to myself, like, that doesn't seem like the pairing I would have expected, but it's maybe my favorite one so far.
Awesome, glad to hear it.
Finally, a red wine and 2 cheeses, because like, I just totally couldn't decide. We'll see which one pairs better to this wine.
Nova Scotia, we're still trying to figure out what works best as a red wine. It's really just finding the right grapes on the right place. So Gamay, of course, comes from Beaujolais, the southern tip of Burgundy.
We grow a fair amount of red in Nova Scotia, but sometimes it doesn't always ripen as quickly.
The Oak Island vineyard where this 1 acre of Gamay is planted, I would suspect has a little bit of, like, say, natural drainage to the soil. When you're on a hill and you've got like some nice mix of gravelly stuff in there that can allow water to pass through a bit more, and then you've got the benefit of the sun exposure if you happen to be south facing, then that's a great combination of terroir features for a grape like Gamay, because it's like, okay, great, it's sunny and my feet aren't wet, so I'm happy, and don't change anything.
It's so nice and juicy. This is the kind of red style that I like to drink.
So we've got 2 cheeses here. We have an aged cheddar. This is a 24-month aged cheddar from Noydart Farm.
This is so tangy and delicious. Like, the acidity is very, very high in it. Nice and salty. This one's, you said, is an aged Gouda?
It's an aged Gouda with blue cultures added to the cheese curds at the cheese making stage. So this is made by a farm called Glasgow Glen on Prince Edward Island. One of the things that these aged cheeses have a high content of is protein, and in a lot of ways they function much like a red meat would. Certainly when you're pairing it with red wine. So the protein and the tannins, the protein will bind to the tannin and really soften out the tannins instantly. So anytime you have a wine that is a bit drying in the mouth or a little bit like too chewy, you put it with some protein in the form of a hard cheese or a meat, and it's like an instant sort of reaction, an instant softening of the wine, and then a pushing forward of, you know, the softer, fruitier notes.
Thank you so much, Heather, for schooling us all, for showing us how it's done, and I can't wait to be drinking more wine in this space.
I can't wait either, Jess. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
I get really excited talking about stuff that I love, people that are going above and beyond when it comes to hospitality and food and drink. I think that it's easy just to keep status quo and just do the same thing as everybody else, but all of the places that we're going are really special. So let's binge the best of Halifax together. Thanks for watching Stoked on Food. Launch it right into the harbor. Ramp it.